No, sir, we do not have any reservations under the name Zielinska, the waitress said, smiling slightly embarrassed. But maybe you'll come again. Sometimes the traffic jams in the city center are terrible. Yes, maybe, Michael replied, though there was a note of resignation in his voice. He looked at his watch, 7:27 p.m. He had been sitting at the table for over 40 minutes. There was an untouched piece of cheesecake on the plate, and the coffee in the cup had gone cold, its taste long since lost its meaning. Through the window of the restaurant under the Angel, one could see Krakow drowning in the evening rain, drops streaming down the windows like a silent reminder that time flies. Regardless of whether anyone comes or not. Blind date, the idea of his friend Kuba. Mikhail, you need to get yourself together. 2 years have passed. Life doesn't end after one tragedy. He agreed, although he didn't know why. Maybe because the voice inside said it couldn't get any worse. Maybe he just wanted to try to feel something more than the routine of work and the silence of an empty apartment. The phone was lying on the table. Zero news. None. Will I be late or will I be there soon? Her name in the app profile was Anna. Photo of a smiling woman in a white coat somewhere on the Vistula River. She wrote that she likes books, chocolate, and people who don't pretend. It sounded simple, honest, enough to convince him. The waitress, young with a braid and a nose ring, brought the bill even though he hadn't ordered anything yet. Maybe something more than coffee, dessert. It's always easier to wait when there's something sweet on the table. Michael smiled faintly. Thank you, but I think I'll go now. It doesn't look like anyone else will show up today. He stood up, took his jacket, and went to the bar. The sound of the door opening no longer made any impression on him. So many times he had hoped it was her, that someone would say his name any minute now, but no one did. 2 hours is probably a new record, he muttered under his breath, handing the waitress a banknote. At the back of the room, someone pulled out a chair. Then small footsteps were heard, and then a soft, childish voice, slightly out of breath. Sorry, are you Mr. Maikow? He turned around. In front of him stood a little girl, maybe years old, with a large backpack with a teddy bear sticking out of it. Her hair was disheveled, her cheeks pink from the cold. Yes, and you? He asked, not hiding his surprise. I am Zosha. My mommy apologizes for being late. Michael blinked as if he didn't understand. Your mommy said I had to tell you something very important. The girl opened a small pink bag and took out a note folded in half. The paper was a little damp from the rain, and the handwriting was feminine, slanted, and soft. Don't be afraid that I'm not here. Sometimes you need to check if someone is really waiting. Michael felt something tighten in his throat. He did not know what to answer. Your mother, Anna, he asked, and the girl nodded proudly. Yes, but she says everyone calls her Mrs. Ania at work. She works in a hospital. Today was supposed to be her day off, but there was a man who desperately needed blood. Mom always says that people are more important than time. The waitress, who heard the conversation, looked at Mikhail with a smile. It appears you were not issued, but merely temporarily postponed. Zosha laughed so brightly that even the DZ music pouring from the speakers sounded warmer. Mom also told me to tell you that you like cheesecake. That's true. Yeah, actually it's my favorite. Great, so we'll order 2 pieces. Mom will come as soon as she finishes work, but I can wait with you. I'm not afraid. Before he could protest, the girl was already climbing onto the chair across from him, swinging her legs. The waitress brought the cheesecake, and Zosha started talking about school, about her cat Philip, about how her mother used to sing in the choir, but she stopped because life got loud. Michael listened, at first out of politeness, then with growing astonishment. The child spoke about the world with such sincerity, as if no one had ever taught her that adults stop believing in goodness. Do you have anyone? She asked suddenly, staring at him with her blue eyes. No, I don't. That's good, because my mother said that someone who waits alone is brave. You must be brave. Those words hit him harder than he would like to admit. Brave he is, who has been running away from every feeling for 2 years. Zosha reached for the spoon, licked it with satisfaction, and added, Mommy cries sometimes, but she says everything will be all right. You just need to meet a good man. Maybe it's you? Michael fell silent. Somewhere inside, something broke, as if someone had opened a door that had been closed for a long time. Time passed. The girl continued talking, pausing only to take a few sips of hot chocolate. When he asked how she and her mother met, she replied, "Mom said she wrote to you because she liked your photo. You looked like you were listening, even when no one was saying anything." At that moment, the rain stopped. Instead, a soft glow appeared. Mikhail looked at the little girl and felt that fate was doing something strange to him, something he had not planned, but for which he was ready. "What do you do at work?" Zosha asked. "Designs houses, so maybe one day you will design a house for us. My mother said that if you find the right person, you can build everything from scratch." Michael smiled for the first time that evening. "You really know, Zosha. I think your mother is right." At that moment, the restaurant door opened again. The wind blew, and there was a smell of rain and perfume. On the threshold stood a woman in a navy blue coat with flowing hair and a tired but warm look. Zosha jumped up from her chair. "Mom!" The woman quickly approached, crouched down next to her daughter, and then looked at Mikhail. "I'm sorry, I really didn't mean for it to turn out this way. There is nothing to apologize for," he replied calmly. "Sometimes it's worth the wait." Then Zosha interjected enthusiastically. "Mom, Mr. Mikhail said he likes cheesecake, so I ordered 2 pieces, and I told him about our cat." Anna laughed, and her laughter was like music that Michael had not heard in a long time. Warm, simple, without a trace of pretense. She sat down and looked into his eyes. "Zosha sometimes has too good a heart, but I see she's in the right place." The waitress brought fresh coffee, a candle lit on the table. The world suddenly seemed simpler. Little did they know that this evening would be the beginning of a story that neither of them expected. A story in which this child will connect 2 adults who have long since stopped believing in second chances. And Mikhail, looking at Anna and her daughter, thought only one thing. Maybe today I am no longer alone? "Zosha, you shouldn't run around the city alone," said Anna, adjusting her daughter's scarf. "I was supposed to be there in 10 minutes. But the lady from the flower shop said the restaurant was only 2 blocks away and that Mr. Mikhail was probably worried." The girl was indignant, lifting her chin with pride. "I couldn't leave him alone." Anna sighed and shook her head. "How can I be angry at such arguments?" Mikhail watched this scene with a quiet smile. There was something about her, tired, with wind-blown hair, in a navy blue coat and with eyes the color of green after a storm, that attracted him in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't admiration for appearance, but rather peace. The feeling that this woman is not faking anything, not even her own tiredness. "That's not a problem," he said quietly. "Zosha is unique. Honestly, she saved my evening." Anna sat down across from him, and Zosha immediately climbed back into her chair and dug into the rest of the cheesecake. "More likely 2 evenings, because if my mother is late, she makes up for it by talking," she stated with her mouth full. The woman giggled softly. "Do you see what kind of Paro I am doing? I don't need an agency." Michael smiled wider. "It seems your duo has a lot of charisma." There was silence for a moment, but it wasn't cheap, rather soft, where everyone could calmly collect their thoughts. Outside the window, the rain was turning into a fine drizzle, and a jazz version of Fly was playing from the speakers. The European Championship is the moon. Anna unbuttoned her coat. She wore a simple white blouse and a gray sweater, and there were ink marks on her hands, a sign that she did indeed work at the hospital. "I'm sorry it turned out this way. I had the day off today, but the patient I was treating had a seizure. I couldn't leave until we stabilized him. Period. You don't have to explain." Mikhail replied lightly, although there was understanding in his voice. "I know what a sense of duty means. I work in a profession where clients call at all hours." "Architect?" she asked, remembering what she had read in his profile. "Yes, I design houses and interiors. Recently, mainly offices. But I once dreamed of small family houses with a garden. You know, the ones where you can see that someone actually lives there?" Anna nodded. "It's funny. I also once dreamed of a house like this, but then life decided otherwise. So here I am with Zosya in a rented apartment with a view of the chimney." "The view of the chimney is also something," replied Mikhail with a twinkle in his eye. "Always reminds you that somewhere inside someone is lighting a fire." Anna looked at him in surprise. "I don't know if this is an attempt at humor or poetry, maybe both," he admitted, smiling slightly. Zosha clapped her hands. "Mom, Mr. Mikhail speaks as nicely as the gentleman from the fairy tales in the council." Because Mr. Michael probably has a lot of stories in his head, Anna replied. Maybe even more than I am on duty. Then the waitress brought new coffee for Michael and tea with lemon for Anna. Michael paid, even though Anna protested. No, please. After all, I was the one who was late. But I was the one sitting here for an hour with an empty table, so I guess I deserve a little satisfaction. He joked. She laughed out loud for the first time that evening. Genuinely, a laugh that wasn't polite or casual, but genuine. After dinner, they went out together. The city glistened after the rain. The cobblestones were lit by the streetlights, and the smell of wet earth mingled with the aroma of fresh bread from the night bakery. Zosha ran ahead, jumping in puddles. Aren't you afraid you'll catch a cold? Asked Michael. Zosha was not born in November in the middle of a storm. She is resilient by nature. They crossed the bridge over the Planty. There was a light fog in the air. I can't remember the last time I just talked to someone like that. Mikhail admitted after a while. No tension, no pretense. Anna looked at him sideways. Me neither. Maybe it's because neither of us came for anything. It just came. Zosha stopped and called out, Mom, Mr. Michael says he designs houses. Maybe he'll design us one with a large room and a cat on the roof. Cats on roofs are very inspiring. Michael replied seriously. But I need precise guidelines, maybe for a walk tomorrow. Zosha clapped her hands. Really? Mom only has half a day on duty tomorrow. We can go. Anna looked at him questioningly. I only agree if you don't get scared by our talkativeness. I'm not afraid of conversations. I'm afraid of silence between people. This sentence made them both fall silent. Not out of embarrassment, but because everyone understood its meaning. When they reached the tenement house where Anna lived, Zosha was already dozing off in her mother's arms. Apartment number 4, 3rd floor, no elevator, she joked, adjusting her coat. I do not recommend after duty. I'll help you get in, Michael offered. There's really no need. I don't insist, but I don't give up easily either. She smiled. In that case, thank you. They climbed the stairs in silence, broken only by the breathing of Zosha's sleeping form. The hallway smelled of soup and fresh laundry, the smell of ordinariness that Michael suddenly craved. At the door, Anna turned around. I don't know if that was a good impression, but thank you for staying. Many would leave. I am not many, he said quietly, and I'm glad I stayed. Zosha opened her eyes for a moment and mumbled, Good night, Mr. Michael. Please don't run away tomorrow. The door closed slowly. Michael descended the stairs, each thud of his shoe against the stone, sounding like an echo of thought. I don't know what just started, but I feel like it's something real. It stopped raining outside. The moon broke through the clouds, illuminating the streets, which seemed less empty than usual. In his pocket, he felt the warmth of the card Zosha had given him earlier. He took it out and read it again. Sometimes you need to check if someone is really waiting. Michael smiled to himself. He didn't know that those words would become the beginning of a new chapter in his life, not only figuratively. Mom, hurry up, because Mr. Michael will soon change his mind, Zosha shouted, running out of the tenement house gate. Michael was standing by his car, holding 3 mugs of hot chocolate with whipped cream in his hand. I don't make a habit of running away when someone is late, he said with a smile, as he saw Anna walking with her hair flying, tying her scarf. That's good. I have a habit of being late, she replied with disarming honesty. I noticed. He replied lightly, handing her the cup. But it was worth the wait. Anna looked at him with a smile that lasted perhaps a second longer than politeness required. Zosha, what are you saying? We celebrate, but next time I choose dessert. They headed towards Planty. The city was coming to life. The sun, timidly breaking through the tree branches, was reflected in the puddles left by the night's rain. The birds were singing, and the air had that special fresh scent that only appears in Krakow after rain. The smell of old stone, moisture, and hope. Zosha ran ahead, stopping every now and then to pick a leaf, pick up a chestnut, or boast about some discovery. Look, Mom, this leaf looks like a heart. It's a sign, Michael said half-jokingly. Maybe someone wishes us luck. Or he warns, Anna replied with a smile, that the heart is a dangerous thing. They sat on a bench by the fountain. Zosha started feeding the pigeons. They were left alone in a conversation that, although ordinary, had something intimate about it. Zosha mentioned that you are a nurse, Michael began. Yes, in the neurological ward. It's a difficult job. But once, after one shift, a patient told me that I was his last smile before he died. And then I realized that I wouldn't trade it for anything else. It must be a burden. Is. But you know what's worse than a burden? Emptiness. No sense. I remember that after the divorce, I felt nothing for several months. Only Zosha reminded me what it's like to want to get up in the morning. Michael was silent for a moment. I understand this more than you think. She looked at him with curiosity. I lost my fiancée 2 years ago. Car accident. She was coming back from my birthday. I was supposed to go out to get her, but I stayed to finish the project. Sometimes I think if I had gotten up 5 minutes earlier, I would have stopped. His voice trembled. I haven't finished any projects since then because everything stopped making sense. Anna placed her hand on his, gently without words. There was no need to say anything at that moment. Zosha also lost her dad. She said after a while, "Not in an accident. He just passed away 2 months before her birthday." Sometimes I think it would be better if he died than if he just stopped caring, because then I would have a reason to regret it. But all I'm left with is a lack. They fell silent. The fountain roared softly as if the world was giving them space to speak. Zosha came back and sat between them. She was holding a heart-shaped leaf in her hand. "Mom, Mr. Michael said it was a sign. Maybe this means we'll be a family?" The words spoken with innocent joy resonated with them like an echo that had lingered for far too long. Anna froze. Michael looked away to hide his surprise, but a slight smile appeared on his face. Warm, surprised, real. Zosha, the mother, began gently. "Don't say that, honey. Oi. After all, Mr. Michael is nice, has pretty eyes, and knows how to listen. And you always say that's the most important thing." Michael couldn't help but laugh. "Zosha, you are the bravest girl I know, and you're blushing. Does that mean you like it?" Anna covered her face with her hand, and her cheeks turned the color of the setting sun. "Zosha, enough of these questions, but I'm just asking. A child's honesty is sometimes more penetrating than the best psychologist." And it was at that moment that something they had both been trying to avoid appeared between Anna and Michael. A subtle, genuine tension. After a while, they got up to walk further. The conversation turned to lighter topics. Books, films, and favorite places in Krakow. "Do you know this feeling? When you walk down a familiar street, but suddenly you feel like you're seeing it for the first time?" Michael asked. "Yes, it happens rarely, but then I know that something is changing in my life. I have exactly this impression today." The words hung in the air. Anna felt her heart speed up. Not because she was in love, and she was not yet, but because for the first time in a long time, she wanted to meet someone. Zosha ran ahead, stopping at every bench and every puddle. "Mom, Mr. Michael looks as if he was smiling with his heart." She called out suddenly. Anna looked at him and burst out laughing. "I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful. It means that when you look at someone, there is no need for words. You can see everything." Mikhail felt something break inside him because he really didn't need words. He looked at Anna and knew he would like to see her tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, in a week. Not out of pity, not out of curiosity, out of need. As they headed back towards the market square, the wind began to die down and the first stars appeared in the sky. "Zosha, come on, it's getting dark." "But one more wish. When a star falls, you have to think about something important." The girl cried, closing her eyes and folding her hands as if in prayer. Anna looked at Michael, and the gentleman thought something like this. "And what was that? That this is not a coincidence." They walked on in silence. Something fragile but real grew between them, like the first light after a long night. When they said goodbye in front of the tenement house, Anna stood for a moment as if she wanted to say something, but lacked the courage. "Thank you for the walk," she whispered. "I haven't felt this normal in a long time. And I haven't felt like I belonged in a long time." Zosha suddenly hugged him by the legs. "Good night, Mr. Michael. Please come tomorrow, too. Mom is on leave." Anna laughed, shaking her head. "Maybe we'll see each other this weekend. Will you come over for pancakes?" Zosha thinks this is the best way to make friends. If this is a recipe, I will not refuse in my heart. When the door closed, Michael stood for a moment, looking at the lights in the windows. He felt as if he could smell life for the first time in 2 years. Not architecture, not empty conversations, not the silence of the apartment, of life. "Mom, hurry up or they'll burn," Zosha shouted from the kitchen, holding a spatula larger than her hand. Anna ran inside laughing. "Zosha, you were only supposed to mix the dough, not fry it. But Mr. Maiko wrote that he would be there in 10 minutes. I want it to smell like a fairy tale." Maiko actually wrote, "In short, I'm bringing maple syrup. See you in a moment. Smile emoticon." Anna read the message 3 times before she dared to reply. "Zosha is already mixing the dough. Please prepare for chaos." Chaos was an understatement. The kitchen smelled of milk, vanilla, and slightly burnt butter. Bowls were piled high on the table, and a thin stream of pancake batter was dripping down the counter. But there was something real in all of this, as if life had finally returned to these 4 walls. The door rang. "I'll open it," Zosha shouted, running with such energy that she almost slipped on the spilled milk. "Just don't tell me you're home alone," Anna managed to scream, wiping the tabletop. After a moment, a familiar voice was heard in the corridor. "Good morning, Mr. Zosha. I see it smells of culinary mastery." "Yes, and please don't laugh if they get burnt." Maiko entered with a bag in his hand and a smile that brightened even the cloudy Sunday. He was wearing a navy blue sweater and a check scarf, and in his hand he held a bottle of maple syrup and a small bouquet of daisies for the cooks. He said, handing the flowers to Anna, "We're saying on goodbye to Mr. Michael, but this is my kitchen." Zosha was outraged, stretching out her hand for the flowers. "One for each of you, then." Anna took the bouquet, and for a second their fingers touched. It was a simple gesture, yet she felt her heart speed up. She looked away, pretending to look for the scale. "Zosha says there will be a tasting," she said to break the silence. "This is a very professional approach. I like women with a plan," Michal replied with a smile. They sat down at the table. Zosha took care of the pancakes, which looked, to put it mildly, different. Some resembled a map of Europe, others an artistic explosion. "This one is for you because it is the most successful," she declared proudly, placing a plate with a heart-shaped pancake in front of Michael. "Zosha, how did you know that Mr. Michal likes these?" Anna asked, amused. "I didn't know, but the heart always works," Mom said. Michael laughed heartily and then tried it. "The best I've ever eaten. I swear, even if it's burnt. Especially then." "Burnt means someone tried too hard." Anna looked at him with a twinkle in her eye. "Nice. You should patent this. I am not a poet, just a realist," he replied calmly. "But sometimes realism can also be romantic." They looked at each other for a moment. Zosha said something about pancakes, school, and Philip the cat, but their gazes stopped mid-sentence. After breakfast, Zosha ran to her room to put on a show for the guests. The apartment was silent, only the sound of rain on the windowsill and the faint smell of coffee. Anna poured them each a cup. "I don't remember the last time someone ate breakfast at my place." "That means today we have a historic moment or a risky moment," she replied, trying to joke. "Zosha is probably already planning her wedding, and I thought only architects planned on a grand scale." She laughed, but her laugh had something soft, fragile about it. Michael felt that he wanted to hear it more often. "You know, Anna," he started cautiously, "yesterday when I was returning home, I thought that for the first time in a long time I did not feel empty. It may sound strange, but your apartment smells of life." Anna lowered her gaze because we live part-time lives between shifts, bills, and school. But sometimes, like today, you can forget about the rest. Or maybe this is the whole thing. Not these big moments, just ordinary Sundays. You sound like someone who has already thought this all through. More like someone who has stopped being afraid to think. Before she could answer, Zosha ran into the room with a paper crown. "Attention! Attention! I declare that Mr. Maiko has become a knight of the Pancake Kingdom today." "Oh, that sounds serious," Michael laughed. "What duties does a knight have?" "He must come to breakfast every Sunday and must not upset anyone." Anna looked at her daughter, then at him. "It's not easy for everyone to be a knight." "It doesn't matter," he replied, looking straight into her eyes. "You just need to want it." They spent the afternoon together. Zosha built a fort of jumpers. Maiko fixed the creaking door, and Anna allowed herself to laugh for no reason for the first time in a long time. When Zosha fell asleep on the sofa with the cat by her side, Maiko covered her with a blanket. "You are a lucky lady," he said quietly. You have a child who glows as if he had the sun inside. This light is not mine, Zosha replied. She simply taught me to see things differently. She looked at him. Their faces were maybe half a meter apart, but there was more tension in that distance than in any touch. Mikhail started as if she wanted to say something, but her voice trembled. You don't have to say anything. That's why I want to. Before she could finish, the phone rang. The following words appeared on the screen. Hospital emergency service. Anna looked at him apologetically. I have to go. We have a new case. I don't know what time I'll be back. I see. She took her bag, adjusted her coat, and leaned over Zosha. Will you tell her I'm at work when she wakes up? Of course. Before she left, she stopped in the doorway. Thank you for today. I am the one thanking you for something that cannot be named. The door closed. Mikhail was left alone, sitting in the semi-darkness. He looked at the sleeping Zosha, then at the table where the heart-shaped pancake still lay. He smiled. He didn't know that this Sunday was the beginning and that the following days would test them all. Because fate, when it sees people beginning to smile after pain, often wants to check if they are really ready for happiness. The phone rang at dawn. Mikhail, sleepy, instinctively reached for his cell phone, thinking it was an alarm clock. But instead of the alarm sound, he heard a trembling child's voice. Mr. Michael, it's me, Zosha. He immediately sat down on the bed. Zosha, what happened? Mom didn't come home last night. My neighbor called the hospital, but they said my mother was in the emergency room, that she had fallen. Michael felt something tighten in his throat. Don't move, honey, I'm on my way. He didn't remember how to dress. He didn't remember how to drive. In his mind, he only had the image of Anna, this woman who had always been strong, calm, in motion, and now suddenly she was going to be weak. The hospital on Copernicus Street smelled of detergent and fear. The corridor was packed with the typical Monday morning crowd, and the nurse at the reception desk looked at me with an indifferent look. Anna Zielinska, neurological department. They were brought in at night, family. Michael hesitated. Friend. The nurse glanced at the monitor. Room 204, but please be quiet. He has undergone tests. When he entered, he saw Anna lying on the bed. Her face was pale, her hair scattered on the pillow. She looked different, like someone who had allowed herself to rest for the first time in years. Zosha sat next to her, holding her hand. Mr. Mikhail, she whispered. She woke up but immediately fell asleep again. She said she didn't remember anything. Michael knelt by the bed. Hey, I'm here, he said quietly. You don't have to worry. Anna opened her eyes, tired but full of awareness. Mikhail, yes, don't be afraid. Everything will be fine. I fainted next to the patient. Dizziness, then darkness. Shame on the nurse who ends up on her own ward. There is no shame in your body demanding rest. Or maybe it's a punishment for starting to think about myself, she whispered. Zosha looked at them both with eyes full of concern. Mom said that only the strong are not afraid. But I'm afraid. Ushid, you don't have to be strong all the time, Michael replied, stroking her head. Sometimes the greatest strength is letting others take care of you. The following days were like suspended time. Mikhail took care of Zosha. He picked her up from school, made her soup, tried to fill the silence with jokes, but every sentence they said started with a mama. They went to the hospital in the evenings. Anna slowly recovered, but her hands were still shaking. Doctors spoke of exhaustion and stress. Overwork. The body rebels, said the head physician. You need to rest. To rest? Anna repeated when they were alone. I don't remember how to do it. I'll remind you, Michael said seriously. She looked at him with gratitude mixed with fear. I don't know if I know how to accept help. It's nothing. I know how to give it. A gentle smile appeared on her lips. Do you know how long it's been since anyone said that to me? I don't know, but I guess it's been too long. On the third day Anna was discharged, Michael picked her up from the hospital. Zosha ran out of the apartment with a bouquet of flowers. Mom, flowers so you won't be sad anymore. Anna crouched down, hugging her daughter. I wasn't sad, just tired. But it's okay, honey. Michael helped her up the stairs. You should rest. I'll take care of dinner. I won't let you cook in my kitchen. And I don't ask permission from a couple when I take off my jacket. After a while, the sounds of frying and Zosha's laughter came from the kitchen. It smells better than in the restaurant, the girl exclaimed. It's the secret recipe of the Night of the Pancake Kingdom, Michael replied seriously. Anna, lying on the couch, listened to all this with her eyes closed, and for the first time in a long time she felt at peace. Not the forced hospital kind, but the real kind, the kind that grows from the presence of another person. In the evening, when Zosha was already asleep, Mikhail brought tea. You deserve peace and quiet. I don't believe in peace, only in people who can give it. And I believe in second chances. Do you think this is it? I don't know. But I know that if you hadn't been late then, we probably would never have met. That's true. She smiled weakly. Zosha says that God sometimes knocks over a cup so that a person has to look at the table again. Smart girl, probably from my mother. Not after life. It started raining outside. The rain was pounding perepid rhythmically, as if he was marking their common breath. Michael started quietly. Sometimes I'm afraid that it's too good to be true, that when something starts well, it immediately goes wrong. Not everything good has to hurt. Not everything, but most of it. Maybe it's high time to change that. Their eyes met. They didn't kiss. Not yet, but in that silence there was something more true than words or promises. A week later, Anna returned to work part-time. Mikhail drove her home on the first day. You didn't have to, I know, but I wanted to. Zosha, sitting in the back of the car, fastened in a child seat, clapped her hands. That means we're a team now. Michael looked in the mirror and smiled. The best team I've ever had. Anna turned her head to the window. A smile twitched on her lips, but her eyes filled with tears because she knew it was not just gratitude anymore. It was closeness. Quiet, natural, without forcing. And fate seemed to give up testing their courage for a moment. For now, spring has arrived in Krakow earlier than usual. The air smelled of bézé and freshly cut grass, and the sun painted patches of golden light across the cobblestones. Anna walked slowly back from the hospital, a bag on his shoulder, a paper coffee cup in his hand. She took her time. For the first time in a long time, she didn't have to. Mikhail was waiting for her in front of the tenement house gate. He was wearing a light shirt, the sleeves rolled up to the elbows, and in the other hand, he held a small bouquet of daisies. The same gesture he had repeated many times before. Good morning, nurse. Good morning, Mr. Architect. How are the patients? Some sleep, others dream. I think I'm starting to dream too. About what? He asked, coming closer. About never having the feeling that life is slipping away from me again. He smiled, but there was something deeper in his eyes than simple joy. So maybe we should keep them together. Before she could answer, a shrill voice rang out from behind them. Mom, Mr. Mikhail has his birthday today. Zosha ran out of the gate with a balloon and a crookedly wrapped gift. How's that for a birthday? Anna was surprised. I just didn't want to make an event out of it. Too late, Zosha exclaimed triumphantly. We have a handmade cake. I mean a little crooked, but made with love. Michael burst out laughing. These are the best cakes, the ones made with love. They entered the apartment together. There was indeed a lumpy cake on the table with icing running down the sides and a chocolate heart. Zosha lit the candles. Please make a wish, and if I say it, it won't come true? No, because Mom and I are magic. Michael closed his eyes. He did not ask for anything material. He just thought, let this moment last. Zosha blew out the candles with him and exclaimed, we're a family now because cake is a symbol. That's what the psychologist at school said. Anna laughed, but tears welled up in her eyes. Mikhail noticed. Zosha, go wash your hands before we eat the cake. But quickly, the cat is already prowling. When the girl ran out, Anna sat down opposite him. I don't know when it happened, Mikhail, but I'm afraid that if I say something loud, it will all disappear. Nothing will disappear. We are not a dream. What if it's just gratitude? Gratitude doesn't make your heart beat faster at the mere sound of your voice. The silence between them was not no. It was like the air before rain, saturated with something that was about to fall. Anna looked into his eyes. I never thought anyone could look so calmly again, and I never thought anyone would ever look back at me. Before she could say anything, Zosha returned, holding a small box in her hands. Mr. Mikhail, it's from me. Mikhail opened it. Inside was a child's drawing of a card. He, Anna and Zosha, holding hands, and above them was the inscription, "Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's someone who's waited long enough." Mikhail felt something inside him break, but this time not from pain, but from overflow. He looked at Anna. Zosha was right. He stood up, walked around the table, and stopped in front of her. He didn't say anything, simply embraced her without rushing, without hesitation, like someone who had finally found the place they'd been searching for all their life. Anna rested her head against his wound. "I don't remember the last time someone hugged me like that. Maybe because you didn't have anyone else to let you." Zosha clapped her hands. I knew that Mr. Mikhail was in love with Mana. Zosha, Anna tried to keep a straight game, but laughter punctuated every word. But it was obvious. Mikhail crouched down next to her in his eyes. "Do you know that when someone really likes someone, they're sometimes not afraid of it? So please don't be afraid." She replied with the seriousness of a 6-year-old. Anna looked at him, with a slight tremor in her voice. "I'm not afraid." In the evening, they sat together on the balcony. Zosha was already asleep, and the soft chime of the clock came from the kitchen. The city smelled of night and flowers. "Do you remember how it all started?" Anna asked. "How could I forget? I was waiting alone in the restaurant, thinking I'd made another mistake about people, and then a child came with a backpack and a letter. The most beautiful letter I've ever received. Sometimes you have to check if someone is really waiting," she repeated quietly. "I wrote it because I wanted to see if anyone still believes in people. And what did you see? A man who didn't leave." There was a long, warm silence, the kind where words were unnecessary. Mikhail reached into his pocket and pulled out a box. Not a ring, not jewelry, just a key. "What is it?" she asked, surprised. "The key to the apartment I'd just finished designing. A small house near Krakow with a garden, with a terrace and room for a swing, for someone who taught me it was worth waiting." Anna closed her hands around the key. "No, I know what to say. Don't say anything. Just come when you're ready." She looked at him and smiled through her tears. "I'm here." Mikhail leaned down and kissed her gently, not like someone conquering, but like someone returning home after a long journey. Zosha, standing in the doorway with a cat in her arms, whispered proudly, "I knew this would be a happy ending." Anna and Mikhail looked at her, then at each other. "Yes, Zosha," Mikhail said, "but this is only the beginning." A few months later, the restaurant Under the Angel once again had the familiar table by the window. This time there wasn't an empty chair. There were 3 cups, a single bouquet of daisies, and a girl speaking loudly to the waitress. "Please make a reservation, forever, under the name Zielinska Novak." The waitress raised her eyebrows. "For how long?" Zosha smiled broadly. "For eternity." And Mikhail and Anna just looked at each other, knowing that this time no one had stood anyone up, because sometimes fate is deliberately late, so that you can be in the right hands. M.